Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Person Podcast, a twice-monthly podcast for people who experience the world intensely. Join me on a journey of acceptance of our highly sensitive person traits. Welcome to episode 51. I'm your host, Kelly. This is a twice-monthly podcast about what it's like to have sensory processing sensitivity. Before I get started, I'd like to share a comment left by a reader on the blog. I think hearing from other people about their experiences with learning about high sensitivity helps us all feel like we aren't alone, or we aren't the only one who feels the way we do. So she writes, "It's amazing that in the podcast you actually describe me to a T, down to all the little nuances in almost every episode. I always believed that all of this was ADD related, but now I understand that I'm an HSP. Not only did it help me understand myself, it also helped me understand the rest of the world. How come people can feel and act in such a way that is so different from my point of view? I always thought that some people are simply emotionally disabled, apathetic, or just mean. Now I understand that I sometimes feel differently due to my highly sensitive nature, and not all people think alike." Thanks so much for that wonderful, wonderful comment. I think a lot of us can relate to that. So, to the episode. Today, it's time for a good old rant, folks, and this rant is about job interviews. I think it's fair to say that most people dislike job interviews, and for highly sensitive people, they are extra super not fun. Unless you are interviewing for a job where interviewing will be your function, then being judged by your performance in an interview doesn't make a lot of sense. For example, if I'm a writer, who cares if I perform well in an interview? What really matters is that my work is good and that I can function well in the workplace, not how I act when asked random difficult questions and expected to answer them immediately. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, being able to think on your feet and speak intelligently in front of other people is a skill that's needed in many jobs. I say, unless you're giving interviews for a living, those things don't matter. Not many people have jobs where they need to speak intelligently in front of other people off the cuff with no rehearsal or knowledge of the questions. Not doctors, engineers, administrative assistants, librarians, accountants, lab technicians, pharmacists, graphic designers, computer programmers, writers, police officers, scientists, nurses, and so on. None of these people need to be awesome at answering interview questions to be awesome at their job. The key thing here is the instant, off-the-cuff nature of interview questions. A lot of public speaking that is done in jobs can be practiced and rehearsed. If you're giving a presentation or a speech, you can practice ahead of time. I actually enjoy speaking in front of people, but I only enjoy it if I've had time to prepare and think about what I want to say. In job interviews, you can't know which questions you'll be asked. You have to hear the question and answer it almost instantly. HSPs like to think about what they say before they say it. Therefore, we're not particularly good at thinking on our feet. When I'm asked a question, I want to ponder it and give a thoughtful, accurate answer, not just blurt out the first thing that pops into my head. And since I'm more in tune to other people's emotions, like most HSPs, I'm extra self-conscious about what I say, how I act, and how I look. These worries can make me appear even more nervous. So those are my problems with traditional job interviews. But here are 3 tips on how to get through interviews anyway. I mean, I can't just complain and not offer any solutions, right? So the first tip and the best tip I can give is this. Fake it till you make it. I know you've heard that saying before, and sometimes it can make us HSPs cringe, but I think it truly helps in job interviews. Even if you feel nervous, unprepared, and underqualified, act like you're not. Act like you know that you are awesome and perfect for this job. They would be lucky to have you work there. Thinking this way helps to calm your nerves because it turns things around. The interviewers are the ones who are lucky enough to be talking to you today, not vice versa. Tip number 2, tell the interviewer what they want to hear, but don't lie. HSPs tend to be humble. In an interview, you don't want to brag, but you do need to be confident about your accomplishments and open about them. You need to talk about them. And deep down, really, most of the time, I think we know the answers that an interviewer wants to hear when they ask a question. So give them what they want. Don't downplay your accomplishments. Think about the other people who are interviewing for that same job as you, basically your competitors. Do you think they're trying to be humble? Nope, they're trying to impress the interviewer and get that job. Give yourself every advantage. When all is said and done, being humble doesn't necessarily get you the job, which is your goal. So let's say the interviewer asks you if you have a certain skill that you don't have. For example, they say, do you have experience with Photoshop? And let's say you don't. So instead of simply saying no, you could say something like, I've tinkered with it in the past and I'm really interested in taking a class and learning more. I've used some other photo editing software called fill in the blank. I'm a fast learner, so I'd be eager to learn the software. So you get the idea. Think about the answer that you would want to hear if you were the interviewer. The final tip, we're going to get a little crazy here. Why not try something outside the box? If you know that you normally don't perform that well in interviews, or you're already in the thick of an interview that's going downhill, you could just tell it's not going great. What if you were super honest and said, look, being interviewed is not one of my greatest strengths, but I know I'd be a great fit for this job because, and then list the reasons why. You never know, the interviewer might appreciate your honesty. They might get it. A little bit of a warning before trying this tactic, do get a feeling for the interviewer. If he or she seems uptight and traditional, this technique might come across as unprofessional, so trust your judgment. Remember that the person interviewing you might be nervous too. It's possible that they've never interviewed someone before. Heck, I interviewed people for a job once, and I had no direction on how to conduct the interview. I wasn't trained on what to do. So what did I do? I Googled interview questions to ask. Ever since that day, I've better realized that the interviewer is sometimes just a person like you and me. They aren't necessarily an expert interviewer. I put myself in their shoes and imagine what they'd like to hear. The traditional workplace is changing. I think it is anyway. Things aren't as strict as they were back in our parents' and grandparents' day, or even when I was younger. I like to think that the interview process is changing too. Hopefully it is, because the old-fashioned way of interviewing seems incredibly ill-suited to finding great candidates. Tell me your 3 biggest strengths. What are your 3 greatest weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I hate those questions. But for now, in your next job interview, act like you are awesome and that the interviewing company would be lucky to have you. And if all else fails, tell them you know that you aren't so great at interviews and ask if you can prove your skills another way. I'd love to hear what strategies you use to get yourself through job interviews. Leave a comment on the blog at highlysensitiveperson.net/episode 51, and you can also find the show notes there as well. If you'd like to support the show, if you've ever found value in it or had a realization from it, you can show your support at patreon.com/HSP. And I'd like to give a big thanks to the newest patrons, Lisa Jones, Bridget Constable, and Elisu and Allie. Thank you so much. Just a $1 donation really does make a huge difference. Please check out patreon.com/HSP if you are so moved to do so. You can also show support with a one-time donation by going to the blog at highlysensitiveperson.net. In a final way, a free way you can support the show is by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. Reviews are very important because they help other people discover the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.